The state of Illinois filing a response to the U.S. Supreme Court in the challenge against Illinois' gun and magazine ban. Welcome back, Bishop on Air. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks for hanging out. And if you pull up the Illinois Supreme Court docket for Barnett v. Raoul, you'll see this, where you've got, of course, the original docketing date, February 14th, when the plaintiffs in this case shook the ruling from the 7th Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals to the U.S. Supreme Court and said, we want you to step in and review this. So they filed February 12th. Then you had amicus briefs being filed by the State Rifle Association. We talked about that. We also discussed all of the different states that have filed in support of the plaintiffs, asking for the Supreme Court to take up this particular challenge. Then you get, the American Firearms Association filed an amicus brief. But yesterday, a brief from Cook County, Tony Preckwinkle, the president of Cook County. You've also got Kim Fox and Tom Dart out of Cook County. Kim Fox being the state's attorney, Tom Dart being the sheriff. And also a filing from Kwame Raoul, Brendan Kelly, and J.B. Pritzker opposing what was submitted. So let's take a look first at what the Cook County officials had to post in their filing. And it's 54 pages long. We'll just see if they give us a bit of an overview here with a table of contents. As we look at this, in the question presented, this is State Rifle Association v. Bruin out of New York announced a two-step inquiry governing Second Amendment challenges. The first step, the plaintiffs must demonstrate the government action being challenged contradicts the Second Amendment's text. When conducting that textual analysis, Bruin expressly considered whether the regulated weapons were in common use for a lawful purpose. At the second step, the burden shifts to the government to show that its actions are nevertheless constitutional because they are consistent with the nation's history and traditions of firearm regulation. Questions that the Cook County officials say are presented: whether petitioners have shown that Cook County's regulations of assault weapons and high-capacity magazines contradicts the Second Amendment's text, where they offer no admissible evidence that assault weapons or high-capacity magazines are in common use for any lawful purpose, this Cook County officials claim. And the other question presented, whether Cook County's regulations consistent with the nation's history and tradition, where it's undisputed that governments, they say, have long carefully regulated access to weapons incompatible with the ancient English common law principle of moderate proportional self-defense. So they're going to common law for what proportional self-defense is. So looking at their table of contents, they say the case is a poor vehicle for the various questions presented. No conflicts warrant immediate review, and no extraordinary circumstances warrant review. So that's pretty much their conclusion, again, from Cook County when it comes to the filing to the U.S. Supreme Court. But then you've got the state of Illinois with their filing. Kwame Raoul, the Attorney General, Brendan Kelly, the Director of Illinois State Police, J.B. Pritzker, the Governor of Illinois. Here's what their filing has to say in front of the U.S. Supreme Court. And again, you'll see, the questions presented and says whether petitioners are entitled to a preliminary injunction on their claim. The state and local laws restrict civilian possession of assault weapons and large capacity ammunition feeding devices, violates the Second Amendment. Their table of contents says that this case does not satisfy the criteria for certiorari. There's no division of authority to the question presented. The interlocutory nature of the Seventh Circuit's decision makes this a poor vehicle to decide the question presented. The court should reject petitioner's request that it departs from the usual certiorari criteria. They also say the decision below is consistent with Heller and Bruin, that the decision being the preliminary decision from the Seventh Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals. The assault weapons and large capacity magazines, LCMs, are not arms protected by the Second Amendment, the state claims, and the challenged laws are consistent with historical tradition. Petitioners' arguments are not persuasive, they claim. And if you want, you can go and see all this yourself and read the 47 some odd pages from the state's filing here when it comes to whether or not the U.S. Supreme Court should take up this case. And again, this was filed to the U.S. Supreme Court back in February. All right, back in February. And here we are now in April, and we're getting a response from the state. When will we know if the U.S. Supreme Court's going to take this case, especially considering you've got a lot of different states, like 29 different states or something, that have said that the Supreme Court needs to take this case, that this is the case to deal with this issue, let alone so many of the other cases that there are that could be going all the way to, for instance, other states that have bans on semi-automatic firearms. What was it? Colorado? They're getting ready to approve a ban on semi-automatic firearms. You've got several other states that are moving forward as well with such things. So clearly this is an issue that is going to have to be addressed at some point. When will the U.S. Supreme Court address it? Not sure. And since we don't know when the U.S. Supreme Court's going to address it, we've got to just, I guess, look at the Southern District of Illinois. And is the Southern District of Illinois, where Judge Stephen McGlynn has the case possibly going to trial come July 8th, as we heard from Attorney Thomas Magg yesterday. That's on the merits. It's not on preliminary issues, because even the request to the U.S. Supreme Court is on preliminary issues. So it's possible. And again, I'm not an attorney. I'm just a reporter practicing my First Amendment on a daily basis. As a member of the free press, and having watched these things for years now, it's entirely possible that the U.S. Supreme Court says they're not going to take this case on a preliminary issue. And that makes the Southern District of Illinois federal case that much more important, because it's no longer on preliminary issues. It is on the merits of whether or not states can ban certain types of firearms. So clearly there's a lot more to be said about all of this, and we will be watching it together right here with Bishop on Air. So I appreciate you guys being here each and every weekday morning, and be sure to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell. All right, let's make it happen.